My name is Jake Pelewski, and this is the Nerdball Podcast.
This is the Nerdball Podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
All right, Jake Pelewski, thanks for coming on the podcast for a very specific reason. And that's kind of why when I decided to only go once a week on Thursdays, I left Mondays open or even, early in the week open just for things like this. So you have been running the listening loft at Levi Lilacs for what, a couple years now? I can't remember.
Yeah, it'll be 2 years this March.
Okay, so 2 years. Great show, a lot of shows. One of my favorite things when I walk in there, if anybody's listening has never been in there, is seeing all the posters from the shows you guys did. Really like. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was just something we started with the first show, obviously, because we didn't know there was going to be more than one show, and so when there was, and I was like, I guess we can throw up a poster. I always liked the way that looked, and then I just didn't know how many shows we're going to do. So now, more than anything, I said I'll have to make sure to get a nice picture of that wall because it's a lot of over 40 shows there.
Yeah. So it's cool and it's sad at the same time because it is ending. And that's really why you're on here. The last show, I know. Wait, is there 3 more shows now total?
Yep. Yeah. February 6th, February 13th, and then our final one will be February 20th.
All right, and that's when I want
to. 14th. My apologies. The 14th and 13th. Yeah.
A Valentine's show. Hey.
Yep.
Is it Valentine's themed at all, or is it just a show on Valentine's Day?
I mean, in a way, it is. It's there's 2 different groups that are performing, and they're both made of a couple. One's a married couple, and one's a couple to be married. So.
Okay. All right. Nice. So again, one of the main reasons to have you on is to talk about the listening loft and talk about the last show, which, as you said, is February 20th. I tell people about it because I'm going to be involved. I'm going to do some stand-up comedy. Matt Killam's going to come back on. If you were there for the comedy show we had where we did dad jokes, so we're going to do that again, which I thought was I thought it was going to be good, but it was a lot better than like I could have ever imagined. Is how people perceived it.
And since then, I mean, because that was the night before Thanksgiving, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that since then, I can't tell you how many different people have quoted some of those jokes of that night still to this day.
Dude, it was fun. It was a fun night. So we're gonna do that. I'm assuming there's gonna be music and that kind of stuff too on this last show.
Yeah, it'll be a whole mixed bag of just celebrating all the different stuff we've done in the loft. So it'll be myself along with some other musicians. We've had a lot of different release shows up there, so we'll have some original music artists. Jeff Stewart will be a part of it. I'll be a part of it. John Roth, and obviously we have some comedians like yourself and Matt in there because I just be a little variety show kind of thing, which is something we always kind of envision doing anyway. So figured it's fitting to do it the last one.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of like too. Like when as soon as like, hey, do you want to do it? I was like, yeah, and it is going to be, like a variety show. And then in my mind immediately was like, all right, well, how are music and everything else going to fit in? And that's your job. Which cat is that?
That's Obi. He's gonna try to turn the computer off.
And in my mind, it's like sometimes it's got to be hard to like try to figure all that out. Like, all right, well, if I'm gonna have someone do comedy and then someone's gonna play music, then is that gonna be set up already, or do they have to set up after that? Or if I'm gonna do spoken stuff after music, how does that work?
Yeah. So I've been working on formatting the show so that it all feels cohesive and nobody's moving furniture and stuff all over the place, because that's why we're going to go with smaller setup of musicians. So when we did our holiday show, we had a full band setup and we still had a stage area for the actor portion of it. So it'll be something similar. We'll just have a bigger, broader stage so that nobody's having to move anything around. There'll be a spot strictly for the music and strictly for the comedy.
Do you how many seats do you envision being able to get in there for that night?
With the expansion of the stage, we'll still probably be able to get, I'm gonna guess, right around 100.
Okay.
Because I kind of reformatted the seating in that room. I came up with the absolute, what I think is the perfect floor design, and just to go, well, we're only going to do 4 more shows when I came up with it. I said, well, I guess better late than never.
Yeah, and it's an awesome room too. Like, it's no wonder when John Ruggiero, comedian friend of ours, like he went there once and he was like, I want to do shows here. Like, this is just a cool spot to do shows. And much like I'm sure he's like myself, where it's like, yeah, I was fun for me. Hey, I got to do comedy again, and I got to pay my friends to do stand-up comedy, which is what anybody who's doing comedy wants to do. If it's 5, 10, 20, $100, whatever it is, like, it's cool to get money for something you love to do.
100%. That was kind of the whole point of that whole room to begin with, was to give not only artists, be it a comedian or musician, or any kind of performing artist, not only to give them an opportunity to have a payday, but then also have patrons be able to come and all be there for the same reason. So instead of having the bar noise, and all the chatter and stuff you get in a normal bar setting, it was just like, what if we have an actual venue where everyone's there for the same reason? So it worked out, and everybody got paid, and so it's the end, for the Loft at that specific location. But I've got a lot of irons in the fire to try to keep these kind of shows going. Not, obviously, it won't be the exact same into the same setting, but we've got a number of places that I'm currently talking with about planning some more shows via comedy, via music releases and stuff like that in the future. So it's I don't know when it'll happen. I'm also not in a hurry, because obviously we gotta do these last shows and then and tear down and clean out and all that. So, and then it's springtime and I've got plenty of projects I need to take care of. So
Sure.
that I don't want to neglect. So we'll see. I mean, I think it'll be a lot of cool places. I can't really say much about
Sure. Yeah.
until we have it all finalized, but it's going to be more than one venue.
Well, and that's a cool thing too, because it's a hard thing to balance, right? You want to balance the momentum that this has gained, right, at the Loft. Like, how can we do that, but also understand, like, it's not going to happen like, all right, the last show's February 20th, and then right in March we pick up at this next spot. It's just, it can't happen. But there's a balance into somewhere, like, all right, well, if we go too long, it's almost like starting over again.
Right.
So you just got to find that right balance.
And luckily, I mean, we had a really good core group of people that came to a lot of these shows, and obviously we got to see a lot of new faces too at times. So it was nice having that. So there's, for some people, they're excited about the Loft for the first time in the past couple of months, just for me to say, well, I hope you enjoyed it, because it's gonna be shifting. But
yeah,
luckily, I mean, I've got so much footage from so many of the shows that I'll compile, and just to kind of reintroduce or remind people, like, hey, this is what we did for the last 2 years, and you can kind of ride that wave of that momentum of just going, here's what we did. And so kind of like an off season of sports is the way I'm considering it, or an off season from a television show. Like, we can look at all the footage of the past season, if you will, as we take a breather and get ready for the next season. And then the next season will be not only at one new venue, it'll be at probably 2 or 3 different venues.
And that's cool too, because sometimes having it at one spot is great. People know where to go and they can go to this thing, and it's awesome. But being able to spread it around not only obviously helps other businesses, but also gets it in different parts of town where maybe not everyone goes to this part of Toledo or Maumee or Rossford or whatever, and they can experience these other places, and maybe they find a new restaurant or a new sandwich they like, or a beer that's only served at 1 or 2 spots. So it is helpful, not just to for musicians and other comedians and other acts to, like, have a place to perform, but it's such a wider area of help that it can extend to other people.
Yeah, because there's a lot of good places and a lot of places that people didn't even know were there. That, I mean, the Loft, I mean, it's part of the oldest building in Lucas County, and yet there were so many people that just had no idea. They like, I've heard about this building, I just never stepped foot in it, and it's been there longer than any other standing building in Lucas County.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's some new spots that are opening, and then there's some spots that have changed ownership. There's all sorts of stuff that's we're working with. So it'll be fun in that regard. And every show we want, every venue should feel like its own thing. We don't want anything to feel like the Loft. We want, well, going back to sports, like, there's a draw of playing sports at certain arenas or certain stadiums, and it has a character. And that, to me, I think, is a really cool thing that we can do.
As much as I enjoyed watching you at the casino when you would perform there, like it was fun. It was a cool thing. Like there's nothing like sitting in such a tiny room, intimate room, and being able to see a well produced show with a great musician or comedian or whoever, like in this space. The only thing that you miss from having it at a bigger venue is just more people sharing what you love. But
Right.
in reality, like I guess it doesn't really matter if there's 10 people or 10,000 people. Like you're still get to see what you see, and in fact, it's a little more up close.
Yeah, yeah, that was probably one of the neater parts too, is because not only did a lot of our patrons get to see a lot of artists that were from around here um, in that kind of light that they're not used to seeing them, but then we would bring touring acts through that we're sharing the same stage, and
Yeah.
you're like, wait, this is somebody that's toured the country, or in some cases even the world, and they came in and you're 5 feet from them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like it's just like a really cool thing to showcase in general, in that personability kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's nothing like being at a big venue with that big crowd of people, but I think people really, really enjoyed the small aspect of it, because there's some places that go really small.
Yeah.
One of the places we're currently talking with is only going to be like a 40-person venue, so it'll
Yeah.
be really intimate. And then there's another one that might be 3 times that size. So, I think that alone we'll have to be a little more methodical about what shows go which venues.
Yeah. And I think once people hear, I feel like the more you do this stuff and the more like you're in the community and helping and arranging shows and producing and all this stuff, and I think when people don't know what's going on but they hear your name or Real JP involved in it or running it, then they're more apt to be like, all right, well, this isn't just some startup guy that's never done this before. He's been doing it for a long time, and all these people have been here and played here, and just because you're attached to it and this is your thing, saying your thing, I know there's a bunch of people that do it, but the name of Jake or Real JP helps just solidify that beginning conversations of trying to get people to places.
Yeah, and that was definitely the point of what we tried to establish the last 2 years. Is like I wanted people to know that they're going to have high quality sound, high quality lighting. The format was going to be structured to where it actually felt, this is not just a concert or a comedy show. We want it to feel like, similar to when somebody goes to Radio City Music Hall and sees a live taping or broadcast of Saturday Night Live. Like we wanted it to feel more like a television production set,
Yeah.
just so that that there's a quality control every time you go to a show.
Well, going into the shows, there is no unknowns except in some cases the act. But by the end, everyone knows that person, and now they're looking for their music or their comedy or whatever.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
you don't want to go into a place as a patron. It's like, all right, was the sound gonna be good? How are the microphones, or what's the music like, or what's or not, the ambient music, or what's the like, all these things. But going in, that you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, and that was even nice too, because we multiple times I'd have somebody that say, hey, I've seen this artist perform for years throughout town, and they've never sounded this good.
Oh, nice.
And it's just like, that's what we want. We want the artists to feel that, and we want the patrons to feel that. And so it's like, yeah, sometimes it's just kind of like, if you get a really good meal, I mean, that's why a lot of places worry about presentation. If you get a really good meal, now mind you, I don't mind if it's on a paper plate, but if you're at a restaurant, they talk about plating all the time, and just presentation and the ambiance and everything that all plays a part in the way we ingest when we're going out and being entertained. And so I said, if we can plate the artist really nicely when we're in the loft, I mean, that alone takes a big chunk away from we always tell the artists, be yourselves. It's okay if you screw up, because we're taking care of all like the actual points, like you said, like we're taking care of all the unknown then is the artists themselves, but then that allows them to be a little more vulnerable in a personal space like that, and so because they don't have to worry about all the nuanced stuff that we're doing for them.
Yeah. Well, Jake, I appreciate you hopping on here real quick. I've enjoyed the shows that have been there, and thank you for letting me be a part of them, because it is a lot of fun. And whenever you ask me to do it, I know it's not half-assed. So I appreciate that, and I will put in the show notes the link to that last show, February 20th. and we'll keep an eye out for all your new ventures. And again,
Yeah.
I've told you before, but if there's anything I can do in these new ventures, not even just perform, but just help in the beginning stages, let me know about that too. So.
Oh, I definitely will be calling you.
All right, man. Well, have a good day. Thank you.
You too. Thank you. Happy birthday.
Thanks.